We've worked a number of years to try and reduce the number of cars that we have in our fleet. And we just had the Department of Transportation in before, and I was actually able to ask her on her way out. And all of their trucks and all of their equipment is separate from the fleet and everything. But in the budget, the fleet that you have listed has gone up from 15-16. It was 16,000, and now we're up over 17,000 for 17-18. Can you tell me why they increased?
Thanks for the question, Representative. I believe that we have increased the number of law enforcement vehicles, specifically I'm trying to recall, I think in the Inspector General's office, I think in corrections, probation and parole. I can get you a detailed list of where the increase in vehicle complements have been put in place over the course of the last year or two, and I'd be pleased to do that.
Okay.
What I would suggest is just perhaps two ways to think about this. One, I think that the work that was done in the prior administration around vehicle management here at DGS was really top-notch. And yes, they were very successful at reducing the number of vehicles in the fleet. They were also very successful at implementing a regime for agencies to follow in order to make determinations about when an employee should use their own car and be reimbursed for mileage, when they should take a fleet car, when they should be assigned a permanent vehicle, et cetera. And that work has really helped us significantly. I would only suggest that the number of vehicles by itself is not a sufficient metric through which to assess the overall performance of the fleet. We are much more inclined to look at overall utilization, vehicle by vehicle, and cost per mile, because that tends to be a more accurate reflection of whether or not we're being efficient or not efficient. There are times when adding a vehicle to the fleet is actually the most cost-effective thing to do based on the amount of mileage that's being traveled.
And I understand that, and I know you've gone into hybrids as well and saved some dollars there, I assume is for the direction that you went in for that. How many vehicles are leased to the legislature? And while you're looking for that, as we were looking for the ability to lease the vehicles and everything else, one of the questions that I had asked actually the Secretary this morning, there was a line in the budget that's changed, and they said, kind of directed it back to you, so sorry for that. The line was the redistribution of parking costs was a line that's used in a number of the agencies. So my understanding is that you're taking a lot of the expenses that were under DGS and distributing them out to the agencies for their costs. Can you explain why that's occurring and how much, I guess basically really why that's occurring and what's the dollar values?
Sure. So I may look to Bev for the dollar values, but conceptually where we are is the DGS manages a master parking lease agreement with the city of Harrisburg, and all of the agencies that lease parking spaces through that agreement were. Do I have this right?
Go ahead.
Okay. They were.
Let me know when you want me to.
She's going to chime in for you.
Why don't you take over now? That would be helpful.
When that master lease agreement was formed, there was a set of spaces that DGS had been paying for. So this particular budget reallocation really just reallocates the money associated with other agency spaces back to those agencies. From a management perspective, it just makes more sense. I'll give you a great example. DGS was paying for some spaces on behalf of the Department of Education in a leased garage. And as a result of the IT and HR consolidation, now as we're trying to untangle those parking spaces to reallocate them to OA, they're not a cost in PDE's budget that makes it easy to move those things around for the shared services building.
Okay. So the ability for us, so do we have a delineation as to what that is for each of the agencies as to how many, so it's just a certain amount of dollars that were associated, is it associated with a contract?
It's associated with paying the monthly parking charges.
Okay. For each and every one of them. So
not all of them, just a handful of agencies, about a little over $3 million.
Okay, will be diverted out to their, and so we will see that in their line, that they now have an increase of $200,000 or whatever, so following the dollars in that regard.
That's correct.
Okay, I have some more questions, but I am out of time, so thank you very much, and I'll look forward to the list as to, did we get the answer as to how many the legislature has?
Highlighted.
Gotcha. The House has 42? Oh, no, sorry. The House has 33, and the Senate has 15.
One of the things that are indicated in your budget is the Capitol Police, $150,000, and it says to create sustainable replacement plan for the Capitol Police. First, do Capitol Police take their cars home?
I do not believe so. No.
No. Okay. And how many cars are assigned to the Capitol Police? And are they part of the fleet numbers that you had, or are they separate?
They're in there.
Considered-
They're
okay.
patrol vehicles that are used in and around the Capitol
Okay,
complex.
right. So I wasn't sure if that was counted in your numbers, though. So with the $150,000 is over and above what we have now to buy new cars. Is that what I'm assuming? It's cars that need to be replaced?
That's correct.
Okay. And when it says sustainable replacement plan, what is that?
So the funds are for vehicles, and also we have just completed is that different money? Forgive me, Bev?
Sure. So the Capitol Police currently maintain a fleet of 27 vehicles.
Okay.
The challenge, the struggle has been there. A lot of those vehicles have not been turned over the same way a normal passenger vehicle has been turned over. And as a result, we're at a point where 18 of those vehicles are significantly beyond what we consider to be their useful life. So because the capital injection to replace 18 vehicles is more than we could sustain, we asked for money to build a plan to start to turn over 4 or 5 vehicles every year.
Okay. And so with the cars that you're talking about, we can't use cars that we already own in the fleet?
These are police vehicles. They're full.
And I know they'd have to be adapted. I get
Yep.
that. But a car that you're buying would have to be adapted as well, as from what I understand, any police vehicle is adapted. So we can't use some of the cars that we have already in our fleet and adapt them?
That is not preferable. We're following the model that the state police uses for vehicles in terms of the purchasing model and the upfitting model.
Okay, and one last question. With the cars, since I am a local rep and everything else and driving around, people will see cars driving outside of the state capitol. So what perimeter does the Capitol Police have? I understand, like, as you mentioned, driving around, there's the Rock, and I know 7th Street, so I know it's wider than people think of just the Capitol. But when you see them over in the West Shore, or you see them, in my neck of the woods, people are like, why is the Capitol Police over here? So I'm just trying to understand what it is that, what I can say to them, why are they seeing that?
So I believe Capitol Police provides support to the Turnpike Commission, so they get all the way out to the Turnpike Commission
Okay.
headquarters. They provide support to the Department of Agriculture, which is out. And even over into Camp Hill, we have officers stationed at Camp Hill Prison over by the Corrections Headquarters.
So Capitol Police officers are at Camp Hill SCI?
That's correct.
What is their job there?
I'm sorry, at the administrative offices, forgive me. Used to be.
Oh, the leased.
Yes.
Right, it used to be at the facility, correct.
Yeah.
So at the leased facility in Hamden Township?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so the 27 cars and the sustainable plan, I'm sorry, back to that. How long is that sustainable plan out for?
We're looking at this is just a proposed
Right,
increase right
right.
now, so we're looking between 3 and 5 years.
3 to 5 years. Okay, thank you very much.